Good morning, my dear friends. Paul here coming at you with a Crypto Coffee Update, a series in which we talk about all of the exciting news, events, and developments, I guess you could say, if they're not just repeat developments, here in the world of decentralized finance. And for the name of the series, it is a Crypto Coffee Update. So join me for our ceremonious simultaneous sip in serendipity. Cheers. That is caffeine. Here we are, Cryptide.cc. That is our lovely website. Please check us out. You can check out all the news that we cover here and even more, so you can stay abreast on all of the happenings in the happening crypto space. Cryptide.cc, yet again. Now, the meat of the matter, the news of the day, which you're all here for, ladies and gentlemen, Ringling Brothers Circus 2019, Bitfinex, and Tether. It's here again. I've covered this ad nauseum, folks, I have to say. So if you've already checked out the Tether Pumps and Dumps, What We Know and What We Don't, Part 1, it's a two-part series. I covered all of this information we're about to see and more ad nauseum. So if you're already abreast to the new happenings and you want to get a bit of historiography as to what went down and why we're talking about this, that's your one-stop shop. But with that said, after we look at the relevant news of the day, I have prepared a brief, abridged historiography to give you an idea as to what the relationship between Tether, Bitfinex, Crypto Capital Corp, and many other big name actors in the space are. So, the big news of the day is Bitfinex allegedly transferred $850 million, better part of $1 billion worth of Tether, to itself to cover some losses that occurred. This is, of course, a huge conflict of interest and something that's never supposed to be occur in responsible financial management, but nonetheless, we will begin to dive into this and see why Bitfinex and Tether are anything but responsible. $850 million of commingled client and corporate funds, a good way to start off. New York asserts that they are the leaders in requiring virtual currency businesses to operate according to the law, and they'll continue to stand up for investors and seek justice. Now, the main story, essentially what happened is this. Bitfinex has its processes, its payments processed by an entity known as Crypto Capital Corporation. Now, according to the affirmation attributed to Assistant NYAG Bryant Whitehurst, discussions between the AG's office and representatives of Bitfinex and Tether go all the way back to November 2018. So it's going on for about 6 months. Essentially, there was a lot of worry that the now ended relationship with the Puerto Rico-based Noble Bank was leading to some issues with wire transfer and solvency in terms of being able to get customers their money back. So $850 million in customer and corporate funds that was inaccessible was ultimately blamed on Crypto Capital. So according to the documents, they weren't allowing Bitfinex to access their own funds to fulfill customer withdrawal requests. So this was obviously something that led to some headache. Bitfinex was having extreme difficulty honoring its clients' requests, according to the OAG, to withdraw their money from the trading platform. And again, according to Bitfinex, this is because Crypto Capital, which held all or almost all of Bitfinex's funds, well, they just simply refused to process customer withdrawal requests. But according to the AG, that statement was not true. Documents provided to the OAG by respondents showed that during this time, Bitfinex was having severe problems processing client withdrawals in general. So strange stuff there. Now, representatives of Bitfinex and Tether said that Bitfinex's official reason was that the $851 million couldn't be accessed simply because Portuguese, Polish, and American government officials had seized the funds. So that doesn't sound like an entity that complies with the law or international law, as we'll see here momentarily in Bitfinex's response, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. Bitfinex, according to the document, didn't believe the explanation. Based on the statements made by counsel for respondents to AG attorneys, respondents do not believe Crypto Capital's representations that the funds have been seized. Interestingly enough, in an in-person meeting in February 2019, counsel for Bitfinex and Tether explained that in order to make up the apparent $851 million loss to Crypto Capital due to the seized funds, Bitfinex and Tether were in the process of just contemplating a little tiny $600 to $700 million transaction in which Bitfinex would draw upon Tether's cash reserves. This is interestingly, very interestingly, around the same time that the terms and service for Tether were changed. Now, what were they changed to? Well, it was changed to nothing too worrisome, guys. Listen, every Tether's always 100% backed by our reserves. Whew, and here's what it includes: traditional currency and cash equivalents, and from time to time. It may include other assets and receivables from loans made by Tether to third parties, which may include affiliated entities. Like Bitfinex. Every Tether is also one-to-one pegged to the dollar. So one USDT is always valued by Tether. As one USD. Not backed by a USD, but pegged to the dollar and valued by Tether. So that's interesting. It doesn't really sound like backed, but it's pegged to the dollar, so that's something. And what's interesting is the receivables from loans made by Tether to third parties, which may include affiliated entities. Does that sound... Does that sound... Yeah, if Ifinex is the parent corporation and they just changed their terms of service, is it fair to say perhaps they changed their terms of service to make an $851 million loan? Or really, I mean, it's not that bad. It's $600 to $700 million line of credit to Bitfinex. Interesting. Again, it's probably just a coincidence, guys. As always, what's the old saying? How does the old saying go? Always believe coincidences and don't dig any deeper. That's how it goes. I don't think it goes like that, but something is compelling me to say that. All right, so the council did not suggest what, if any, benefit would accrue to Tether or holders of Tethers from this transaction. Probably none. Nor did the council suggest that this transaction would be disclosed to the public. So we would have had no idea about it until the New York AG took the lid off of this. So thank you to New York, I suppose. But yeah, definitely shady stuff happening at Tether and Bitfinex. Moving right along, on March 4th, 2019, counsel for Bitfinex and Tether responded to OAG's letter with an email stating it is not possible to get information to you by a deadline that you set, so really kind of stringing along the whole situation. Now, Bitfinex has responded to these allegations, and they are hurt. They're hurt, guys. I mean, it's just... How mean, how just mean of the New York Attorney General to do this, guys. That's so mean. Earlier today, the New York AG's office released an order it obtained without notice or a hearing in an attempt to compel Bitfinex and Tether to provide certain documents and seek certain injunctive relief. Court-ordered documents, by the way, you kind of have to comply. The New York Attorney General's court filings were written in bad faith and are riddled with false assertions, including as to a purported $850 million loss at Crypto Capital. On the contrary, we have been informed that these crypto capital amounts are not lost, but have in fact been seized and safeguarded. Safe. So safe that no one can get them, not even you. We are and have been actively working to exercise our rights and remedies to get these funds released. Sadly, the NYAG office seems to be intent on undermining those efforts to the detriment of our customers. I'm not sure if trying to get transparency is the most detrimental thing. Something tells me an $851 million loan might be a bit more detrimental to Tether holders, but what do I know? Bitfinex and Tether have been fully cooperative with the New York AG's office, except for, offering up those documents that they demanded, but we're going to leave that out, as both companies are with all regulators, except for the ones in the countries that they leave to get a new banking entity. We'll see that here in the Paradise Papers in a minute. The New York AG's office should focus its efforts on trying to aid and support our recovery efforts, because, everybody knows that the New York Attorney General's office to aid a private company in getting their money back that's been spread all over the globe. So I don't get that one. Both Bitfinex and Tether are financially strong, full stop, which is why they needed to make a near billion-dollar loan to one of the entities. And both Bitfinex and Tether are committed to fighting this gross overreach by NYAG's office against companies that are good corporate citizens and strong supporters of law enforcement, which is why Devasini and Potter lied about Bitfinex and Tether being the same entity for years until the Paradise Paper revealed it. They're good corporate citizens and strong supporters of law enforcement, which is why they need to obfuscate their records in tax havens. Guys, don't you understand? It's simple stuff. If you don't understand, don't worry about it. Bitfinex and Tether will vigorously challenge this, no doubt. And any and all other actions by the NYAG. So they're strong supporters of law enforcement, but they'll challenge any and all actions from a representative of law enforcement. I think there's a word for that. Hypocrisy. That's it. It's hypocrisy. I almost slipped my mind. So this is insane. I mean, let's just put on our thinking caps. This is literally insanity. You have two entities that are owned by a parent corporation sloshing money back and forth, most of which is customer funds, assumingly, in order to cover a loss because they keep jumping jurisdictions and are simply saying, well, we refuse to reply and comply to any and all other actions by law enforcement. But don't worry, we're good corporate citizens and strong supporters of law enforcement. This is bad think double ungood from Orwell, folks. This is wild. Now, I compiled a short historiography for you to get an idea as to what's going on, as I said, so let's jump into this short, abridged version, because there's a lot that has gone down with this, and as said, I know this stuff like the back of my hand. I've covered it since nearly the beginning, ad nauseum, so let's dive right in. Brock Pierce started Realcoin. But Paul, we're not talking about Realcoin, we're talking about Tether. Oopsie doopsie. Turns out that Realcoin is Tether, of course. Who would have thunk it? Well, here's what's strange. The, I guess you could say prolific Brock Pierce, that individual who started Mt. Gox and started Tether, he's nowhere to be found in the Paradise Papers. It seems as though Divasini and Potter established Tether, even though Tether was Realcoin. So there's no information as to when Brock Pierce simply decided to make his exit stage left, but somewhere along the lines he did. But the meat of the matter for this one is the fact that Mr. Potter and Mr. Divasini have long sought to distance Tether and Bitfinex, saying that don't be silly. Bear Stearns is fine. Wait, no, sorry, that's Jim Cramer. What is it? Bitfinex is fine. Tether and Bitfinex are separate entities. Womp womp. Turns out that's not exactly the case. Hold on, who's this? Vandervelde. We'll see that name a lot. Not in this episode, but moving forward. Don't worry. So Vandervelde also is involved in this, and it turns out that Tether and Bitfinex are tied at the hip, attached at the seams, and indeed ran by the same people in the same manner, so much so that it serves as a giant, non-compliant slush fund for both. All right. Moving on, don't worry, it's really not too big of a deal, because despite the Paradise Papers, they have been audited by Friedman LLP. Friedman LLP submitted a memorandum showing that indeed they are backed, but don't worry, because these consultation services do not constitute an audit or attestation engagement. So it's an audit, but it doesn't constitute an audit, right? Again, if you don't understand, don't worry. It's nothing. It's fine. So yeah, this audit was not an audit, meaning that it's not legitimate. But don't worry, they had another one. Tether's transparency update report. Oh, it raised more questions than answers. Why? Why would that happen? Oh, it's because Judge Eugene R. Sullivan, who's a retired judge, sits on the board of Tether. So that's really, oh, excuse me, he's on the board of Bitfinex. That was my fault. He's on the board of Bitfinex. So strange stuff going on there. But again, probably nothing to worry about. So this audit, non-audit redux is, again, not an audit. Strange. Now, here's a great timing. Tether's new terms of service spark fractional reserve concerns. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Okay, so every Tether is always 100% backed by our reserves, including traditional currency and cash equivalents, and from time to time, just from time to time, may include other assets and receivables from loans made by Tether to third parties. I believe we already covered this. One-to-one peg to the dollar. So it's pegged to the dollar, not backed by the dollar, and valued by Tether. Not actually backed, but valued by Tether. So as you can see, these terms of service shift in terms of semantics come around the same time that Bitfinex and Tether were exploring creating an $851 million loan to Bitfinex for Crypto Capital Corp shortfall. Really strange stuff. As said, this is the abridged version. Here's the full version if you haven't checked it out. Link it below in the description. And of course, here's a fantastic article by David Morris about Crypto Capital, the thread that holds a lot of these exchanges together, including the now defunct Quadriga CX. So ultimately, probably nothing to see here, guys. All the information I just laid out for you that shows gross conflict of interest, fiduciary mismanagement, lies about where they're based in terms of jurisdiction, banks switching hands nearly constantly. It's probably nothing to worry about. Well, either way, let me know what you think of this kind of thing below in the comments. I'm really curious. Let me know on Twitter. Hop on the Discord. Let's talk about this, because this is something that I've said I've covered for years now, and I want to know what you guys think. It seems as though there's almost like a Stockholm syndrome going on with Tether, where people just think it has to be backed. It's so important for the crypto economy. Definitely weird stuff happening. All right, so let's put a cork onto that until more information comes out, and we can go ahead and cover a little bit more, hopefully illuminating the curious case of Crypto Capital Corp. Boom, 5 combo alliteration, loving it. Yelp accepts cryptocurrency. They have a tag for it. So that's super cool. This could be a major win, meaning that if you are a business, you can look and basically tag your business that you accept crypto. And you can then search as a user, say, I want to find a business that accepts cryptocurrency, and voila, it will show you all the businesses that do. So this could be huge, considering Yelp is a major corporation that tons of individuals all around the world use to find restaurants and services around their local area or just areas they're visiting to get a better idea as to not only ratings, but kind of what they offer, what's accepted. This is a huge boon for crypto, guys. Imagine being able to walk into downtown Minneapolis. You're a crypto enthusiast, you've never been there. Just type into Yelp accepts cryptocurrency and voila, you have a aggregated list of all of the entities that accept crypto in downtown Minneapolis. I really don't know if there are many or any. I'll have to look into that. And guess what? I can use Yelp to do it. That's pretty cool. Okay, so a technical piece. Zerocoin has an intrinsic cryptographic vulnerability. Yikes. Luckily, Zcoin was able to move away from that. They were looking to already transition into their next stage known as Sigma, which you can see here. They have since accelerated that. Essentially, the good news is forged coins were created, but they don't exceed 1% of the circulating supply, so it's not a major detriment. They'll release further details on the exact numbers after Sigma is rolled out. The issue is not from a coding error either. It is a cryptographic flaw in one of the proofs in the Zerocoin protocol since its inception. Luckily, it doesn't seem that this has been used heavily, this flaw, since only 1% of circulating supply has been inflated, luckily. Although they believe Zerocoin can be fixed given sufficient time, they've decided not to put resources towards it, again, because they're switching over to Sigma, a new implementation that requires no trusted setup, security proofs for all of its proof systems, and it has a much simpler construction along with performance benefits. There's a large talk on this, about 35 minutes long, by one of the cryptographers working on Zerocoin. Suffice to say, Pivx, Veil, and Gravity Coin were also affected, but no word from them as of yet. They've been working with Zerocoin since the 9th of April, working with Zcoin since the 9th of April to get to the bottom of this, and unfortunately to discover that it is indeed a cryptographic proof error rather than a coding error. So all's well that ends well, perhaps. We'll keep you updated as things roll out. Again, Sigma's being released in about 6 weeks on Zerocoin, and as Pivx and these other projects begin to come to their own solutions, we will do our best to keep you updated on that as well, since, as you know, information flows like water through the crypto space. And it's really hard to dam a whole river and catch every piece of water that flows through. So we'll do our best to keep you abreast to all of these projects, but really Zcoin is the one that came out with this fantastic write-up, and it exposed the flaw in the Zerocoin cryptography. So interesting things there. Now, Gab has forked as well. They've taken the Brave browser and are making a free speech browser, which is super cool. For those of you who don't know, Gab is a Twitter clone. It is focused primarily on objective free speech. There has been some issues raised generally by more right-wing and conservative groups saying that speech is disproportionately favored towards the more left-leaning groups. I don't take a personal stance on this. My personal stance is crypto. That's what I'm here for. So ultimately, whatever individuals want to do, go for it. Gab said they want to fork the Brave browser and create a browser that does not censor any websites and allows individuals to access what information they want. And this is something we're seeing more and more in society in general, given that Google has a de facto control over how information is viewed, for better or for worse. Suffice to say, the name of the browser is Dissenter. It is a browser extension for the time being, but ultimately they are looking to launch a full browser forked off of the Brave browser, which has had much success in the crypto space and is intrinsically related to the Basic Attention Token, or BAT, project. So we'll keep you up to date on this as well, because there seems to be a just deluge of new browsers coming out, seemingly more every year. So you have your choice. Thank goodness for the market, right? All right, so final article of the day. Cryptocurrency is a Ponzi scheme and it needs to be banned, according to an Indian watchdog. India has been wishy-washy, back and forth, yes, no on crypto for years now. It seems as though one individual from the government has voiced his concern, calling Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole a Ponzi scheme. According to the report, when it comes to investor protection, the IEPFA has to take a stand against certain things, against Ponzi schemes. We're taking a stand. We think that cryptocurrency is a Ponzi scheme and it should be banned. So kind of an unfortunate stance being taken by Indian officials in this light. Ultimately, again, they did face a ban last year, something that ground the cryptocurrency industry in India to a halt. They seem to be warming up to the idea, but it seems that the sentiment is shifted back the other way, perhaps. So a lot of conflicting information coming out of the subcontinent. If any of my Indian followers are out there, let me know what you think about this and what's going on in your home nation. You probably have a much better idea about it than I do, and I'd love to find out. With that said, I think that's everything we have for this episode. I know it was disproportionately covering Tether, but like I said, that's the big news, especially with Bitfinex's response. I've covered this ad nauseum, guys. I'm telling you, all of these sources, all this information. I have a document that's just like 5 pages long of just sources for this kind of thing. And my goal is really to get to the bottom of this. I don't have the real answers, the objective truth. I know I have some real information, but it's not the complete picture. I don't think one person, other than the individuals behind this whole thing, have the complete picture. And indeed, their identities are opaque. We don't know who they are in earnest. We don't know where they are in earnest, and we don't know how they run this show. But indeed, as said, the Ringling Brothers circus of Tether and Bitfinex, the acts continue. I guess we're in like Act 5 now, but suffice to say, strange things are happening. But with that said, thanks so much for joining us here on a very special episode of the Crypto Coffee Updates. If you want more information, all links below in the description, as well as the Tether Pumps and Dumps What We Know and What We Don't series. So with that said, my name is Paul. We are Cryptide, signing off. And again, the tide is rising, as is the mystery that surrounds iFinex, Bitfinex, and friends.